We Are So Not Straight would like to acknowledge that the recording of this podcast takes place on the unceded traditional territories of the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh First Nations. Welcome to We Are So Not Straight,
the podcast where two drag sisters talk about everything curvy, swervy, and crooked.
We are your hosts, Michaela
and DJ, and we are
so
happy you're tuning in.
Still can't figure out if that's right or not, but you know what? We're going with it. Sure, yeah. Close enough.
Welcome back to another episode of Season 3.
But before we get into that, we just want to clarify a couple of things.
First off, we just want to say drag is art and art is subjective.
Yes, and all forms of art are valid. So if we ever mention anything about anybody's art or anything like that, just know that we are doing it based off of a competition standpoint or something along those lines, and not based off of their actual art and art expression.
And second of all opinions stated on this podcast are our opinions and our opinions alone.
Yes.
Why'd I do this? Ew, that was
I don't know. Cringy. What is that? Why?
Ew,
what was that choice? Stop. You made a choice and it was not the right one. But that's okay. We still love you. What was I going to say?
I'm glad someone does. To be honest.
We have a jam-packed episode for you today. Obviously, if you listened to last week's, not last week's, the week before last week's, because we took a break because we had a really rough week last week, the two of us. But we're back and we are doing fine and great and dandy and lovely. So we're very excited to finally bring you DJ's episode of the podcast. Well, the first of DJ's episodes of the podcast. And DJ is going to explain to you what he picked in just a moment because we have a little bit of business we have to deal with before we do that. We just wanted to say a couple of things. First thing is that we realized, while we were talking earlier today, that we forgot to update all of y'all on our Drag Race Fantasy League draft.
Draft.
Not this. I don't think that we actually continued keeping score after we told you guys that we were going to, but I do know who won and I do know who lost, so we can definitely update you on that.
So, spoiler warning for also the winner of season 15, because funnily enough, the winner of the draft also corresponds with the winner of season 15. So, I'll give y'all 10 seconds because it's the winner. So, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. The winner of season 15 was Sasha Colby.
I'm so sorry for that finger countdown. I don't know what happened. I started at 8 and then I ended up trying to figure out 7 and I couldn't figure out my fingers. I apologize.
But Sasha Colby won. I made it to the end. I didn't have no queens left. Joey and Connor completely.
I made it to the end too.
Yeah, so our top 4 was Sasha Colby, Lux Noir London, Mistress Isabel Brooks, and Anitra. And the final score that we have here for the draft score is Sasha with the score of 51, Lux with the score of 45, Mistress with the score of 49, and Anitra with the score of 47.
So if you've been keeping score from our draft, you would notice that, again, more spoiler warnings. I mean, you've already been spoiled, so hopefully if you haven't seen it by this point, then you're not watching this part of the podcast. But anyways, if you've been keeping track, based off of the final 2, DJ and I didn't technically make it all the way to the end because we both got eliminated in the last little bit where they decided who was in the final 2.
It was kind of shitty that we didn't get to see them lip sync.
Nathaniel versus Nathaniel.
Yeah.
Hate it here.
Anyway, the total draft score number is Team Minx with the score of 120, Team Treble with the score of 98, Team Lilith with a score of 79, and Team like Joey and Connor came out with a score of 68. It
Oh my
wasn't
gosh.
that far like apart. Like
Not
point.
too bad. Not great either, though.
Yeah.
If you guys want to hear it for All Stars, we will do it for All Stars, but you have to let us know. So either if you're on the YouTube channel right now, either calm down. Wow. Comment down below. I'm like literally losing my mind.
Everyone
I'm
needs
so
to
sorry.
calm the fuck
Everybody
down.
needs to calm the fuck down. No. Comment down below and let us know if you want us to do our draft picks for All Stars. This time it'll just be DJ and I doing the draft, so at least one of us will win, which is exciting. Not that we don't love Nathaniel, we do, but we just think that it's better for us to just do it ourselves this time. So if you want to see it for All Stars 8, please comment down below, let us know, or message us on Instagram, be like, hey, I really enjoy hearing about your drafts and all that stuff. And we'll definitely be doing it for Canada. So if we don't do it for All Stars, we will definitely be doing it for Canada. So keep your ears out for that.
Okay, so this week it was my pick, and the first show when I think of like LGBTQ iconic is Pose. Pose was just such a moment, and although it was created by Ryan Murphy, it still like holds its weight today, and it while it wasn't like based, the people in the show were not real people. It is based on real events and real things that were happening at the time. So I think it's like a great way, especially being the younger gay generation, I think it's a good way to learn about what came before us and like why our community is the way it is today.
Yes, this is also the first show that both DJ and I had seen the whole thing of before we mentioned it on the podcast. So this is something that both DJ and I have seen, both DJ and I love, and think it's really important, especially with the issues that are going on in today's society, which we will be getting into for sure. We definitely think that it's very important for these topics to be spoken about, and we're really excited to be able to bring you this on the podcast.
Yeah, so with that being said, if y'all don't know what Pose is, here is like a little mini rundown. If you guys don't know what Pose is, this is like a little mini rundown. I won't be giving a character breakdown just because it's kind of not necessary for like this part, but whatever. This is just like a backstory of the show. So Pose is set in the 1980s in New York City amidst the HIV and AIDS pandemic. It also it's a giant part of ballroom culture. So houses and chosen family and actual balls are also a very big part of the show, aside from the like characters' backstories and regular.
Yeah, and if you haven't really looked into the ballroom scene, I definitely recommend going and checking out like the history behind ballroom. I definitely recommend going and checking out the history behind the ballroom scene and what representation meant in the ballroom scene and like where it comes from, that kind of stuff too. Especially if you really get into this show, it becomes very relevant in the show, and definitely think that learning the history of it was something that I didn't fully know at the time either, and after looking more into it, it's actually quite fascinating. And it's also interesting how many things come from the ballroom scene that a lot of people don't realize come from the ballroom scene. So definitely go and check out some history on that. I will see if I can find like a link or something that I can put down in the description.
I have something though. If you are a baddie on a budget and you want to watch Legendary, which I highly recommend you do, it is on Soap today. And while pirating isn't exactly the best thing, if you don't want to pay for HBO Max, it is on Soap today.
Yeah, and if you do have HBO Max, or in Canada it's not HBO Max, it's something else. I don't remember what we have it on. But anyways, whatever we have it on, if you have the means of checking it out, I definitely recommend going and checking it out. I know there's a lot of people who are like, oh, I don't know, maybe I'll like it, maybe I won't like it. But even just seeing the kind of, even just seeing the kind of like, if you like dance and you like expression and artistry, it's the show for you, because the different types of ballroom that they do in the show is just enough to blow your mind. And they are so talented that
They really are.
you will literally be so fascinated. And even if you don't like all of them, you will at least find one of them that you'll like.
I think it's also like a really good place to start. So like what is ballroom and how did it get to be where it is today, right? So ballroom started as in the 1980s, you know, trans people, queer people, gay people were not accepted like point blank, period.
Yeah.
And they weren't allowed into clubs, bars, just social settings. So these people came together and made their own. And ballroom and the term voguing comes from posing, which is why the show is called Pose. And that goes into the history, and it's a little like mini tangent, but
We'll definitely,
just,
like I said, we'll definitely see if we can find some links
mm-hmm.
or something about the history of ballrooms so that you guys can check them out, because it's definitely something you should look into. And also, it's a good way to know your history and stuff like that, too.
So, with all that being said, I think we should get into the first moment that I picked. I picked a couple of moments because, uh, just because, like, not with, like, the Grey's Anatomy episodes, there aren't multiple layered onion, like, storylines. These are just moments. So, I did pick, a couple. Also, just a general trigger warning. We will be discussing HIV, AIDS, and also some transphobia. So if you are not comfortable discussing that, hearing that, click away.
Also, just adding to that trigger warning, there will be discussion of character deaths in here as well. So if you are not someone who is okay with hearing about deaths, character or not character, then just be fair warned that there will be discussion of that as well.
Yeah. So without further ado, let's get into the first little moment. So the first thing I have is when Costas Perez says goodbye to Pray Tell. And I just want to start off by saying, like, this show could not have been cast, like, any better. Like, these actors, like, it's the point of being an actor, but they really just give you the message and the emotion and the raw of these scenarios. And I think that is a part of what makes this show so good.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, you look at, I mean, let's talk about it for a minute, because obviously, as we've mentioned before, that Ryan Murphy is the creator of the show, and you look at the history of Ryan Murphy's casting and how strong these casting choices have been in all of his shows, and this one is no exception. It is perfectly cast to put forward the points that are being made in this show, and the actors just have a beautiful way of portraying these stories that really tug at people's heartstrings and make people really, you know, think about what these stories are actually about. And I love that is able to be portrayed through a character with strong choices being made.
Yeah. Especially the cast is all queer and gay and trans, and having an entire show consisting of an LGBTQ2IA plus cast, incredible, like unheard
and wasn't this
of.
the first show, just side note, wasn't this the first show that had like the most trans actors?
I wouldn't like say that's not true.
I feel like we should look that up. I'm pretty sure that the first like thing about it was that it had the most trans actors in a TV, like a television series.
Ryan Murphy's Pose makes history with most ever cast members who are transgender,
which is a big step in itself for the TV community and all that stuff too. I mean, we have Dominique Jackson in there. You have,
mothered. Michaela J. Rodriguez.
I was gonna say Michaela J. Rodriguez is in there. Like, are you looking them up?
Yeah, I'm looking at the Pose cast just because I want to make sure the names are said.
I have to pause every time you type, otherwise I'm gonna have to put the typing in, and it's gonna drive me crazy.
So we have Michaela J. Rodriguez, India Moore, Angel Bismarck Curiel, Billy Porter, Hallie Sahar, Dylan Burnside, Jason A. Rodriguez, Ryan Jamal Swain, Jeremy McLean, Angelica Ross.
So we have 4 like actors who are transgender in one television
And
series. And
starring
I was gonna
leading
say, not
roles.
only are they in the series, but they're in like main roles in the series. Like, hello.
So the first moment where Costas Perez says goodbye to Preytal. Costas is HIV positive and is dying, and he is Prey's lover, right? So Costas is like, cry and scream and mourn for only one day, then move on and, uh, live your life. And that's kind of a message that's repeated, like this state of not being so just down and depressed and sad, but try and uplift it and try and move forward so you can better the community. And I think that's incredible.
Absolutely. I mean, the moment that you specifically picked about him saying goodbye and everything like that, this is something, I mean, like we said, this show is set in the 1980s, right? So this was the biggest time for HIV and when HIV was becoming the most rampant. And the thing that you get to realize in this specific scene is that this isn't the first time that he's had to say goodbye to somebody in this way. But I think it's the first time that he had such a strong connection to them that he didn't think he could continue on without them. Because I think you kind of see with, I don't know about if you feel this way, but I think with Prey, with like his storyline, I think you start to see the emotion come out more in his story as we get further along in the series. And I think that at this point, this was the first kind of little moment where we almost saw a little break in Prey.
Yeah.
It was almost a situation of you realizing how important this person was to him versus the how many times he's already had to say goodbye to other people. This was the first one that really affects him.
And it will not be the last. Also, I just realized a lot of these have to do with death, and I'm like, ooh. I mean, I'll throw, if we get onto a topic and I'm like, ooh, there was a moment, I'll, throw it in there, but,
Well, and DJ already knows that this episode's going to make me cry because the show made me cry. But as soon as he sent me the list of which ones he wanted to talk about, I literally texted him back. I think I texted him back and said, "You're just trying to make me cry this episode, aren't you?"
I mean, it wasn't my intention, but anyway. The second moment I picked out was Cubby Wintour's death.
Oh.
As heart-wrenching as the first one, which, keep in mind, the first moment was it the pilot episode? It was one of the first couple episodes, and I was like, damn, okay, hi, we're here, we are getting into it, we are holding nothing back, everything. And this was another one of those moments. I mentioned before that family plays a very big role in Pose, whether it be chosen or biological, and we see how both of those storylines are kind of played out. But Cubby was a young and upcoming star in the ballroom scene, but unfortunately they were HIV positive. I'm not going to say unfortunately, because that's not I don't know. But they were HIV positive, and in their kind of final moments, they have their family gathered around them, and their biological mother comes to the hospital and basically says that she regrets giving up on Cubby, and oh bitch, I don't cry very often, but this one I was like, God fucking damn, oh.
Well, I have a question for you on that one. So, for me, actually it's not even for me. Do you think that she was being fully genuine in that moment?
I do think so. I mean, losing your child is, I feel, would trigger a genuine emotional response. If she still felt hatred for her child? Why would she go to the hospital when their chosen family is there? Like, the kind of people that the mother would frown upon. Like, why would she go and still, like, make conversation and you know, even though you know the person is going, like, you would still try and make amends there. I think it was genuine.
I think it was genuine, but I think it was very interestingly timed. I think
Yeah.
that basically it was almost like a, this sounds really dumb, but it's almost like a Hail Mary, where it was
Mm-hmm.
like, I don't want you to die thinking that I absolutely despised you, kind of thing. I think it was more like, I think it was genuine, but I think it was deliberately timed the way it was for a specific reason. I think there was more to it than it just being a genuine mother conversation. I think there was
More of like an
that
I
little
was
bit.
right kind of thing.
Exactly. I think it was more of a like, you're going to die thinking that I don't care, but I don't want you to think that I didn't care, so I'm going
It's
to
like I
tell
would
you
have
what
helped you,
to
but
do.
like not in the way of acceptance.
Exactly. I think in those moments we do see the sort of acceptance from Cubby. But I think that also it's almost because there is death on the table, right? Like
Yeah.
it's
It's
in
like
those
the
dying
extremes.
moments that we
Yeah.
finally see the sort of acceptance. And it was almost like a, well, I don't want, I think it's more in Cubby's way of making sure that their mom feels like their mom is going to be okay when
Mm-hmm.
they leave. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I'm trying
Yeah,
to
no, it
explain
does.
it in a better way, but like that's how it came across to me. I don't think that it wasn't genuine, but I definitely think that there was a ulterior motive
Yeah.
in the conversation.
Yeah. Um, yeah. So on to a kind of lighter scene. So this scene is kind of mid-season. I don't exactly remember, but this is like, if you haven't seen Pose, this video has probably come up in your like recommended or on your TikTok. This is when Electra, I think it's Lulu and Candy are in a
Candy.
restaurant. And they're eating, minding their own business, and a woman comes up and is like, "Excuse me," and she's kind of like beating around the bush, and then she says something like, I work in the city. I know a man pretending to be a woman when I see one," to
Yeah,
Dominique Jackson, which, if I was that
literally.
actor, I would have been pissing myself, like running down my leg to the ground, like, like,
But I think this is very important in today's society, especially now. I mean, yes, it's set in the
mm,
1980s, and yes, it was very big in the 1980s, but we're starting to come back around to that kind of thing now, too, where it's not, we were starting to move in a direction of acceptance, and now we're starting to take steps backwards from that acceptance because of some views from other people. And I think that that's really unfortunate because people should be able to live their lives as their true authentic self
yeah.
and not have to worry that something like that is going to happen. I actually saw a another video. I think it was on the channel, the What Would You Do channel, I think is what it's
Oh
called.
God, not
What
not
would you
John
do?
Quinones
No,
with What Would You
okay,
Do?
no, but let me explain. So, a well known trans individual, well, at least I knew them. I don't know if anybody else knew them, but I knew them. Anyways, is sitting in a restaurant and is with their friend and they're talking and whatever, and basically says that she's gonna go to the bathroom and starts to get up, and this other lady who they've obviously set up as an actor
Yeah, just to preface,
basically.
What Would You Do is all actors, and it's getting the public's reaction.
Exactly. So basically what's happened is the character, the transgender individual says that she's going to go to the bathroom, and she gets up to go to the bathroom, and this lady speaks up and says, "Well, you're not going to use the women's bathroom because, you know, women are in there." Like, it's basically like this whole thing of like, if you go in that bathroom, you're going to attack our kids. Like, that's kind of
Yeah.
where it comes
Oh
from.
my God, which
And I remember watching it and just going, ew. Like,
It's
I knew it was an actor, and yet I was still
yeah.
going, ew.
Like,
But the
where does that
reactions from
mindset
the
even
people,
come from?
but here's the thing though, the reactions from the people were really interesting because the one person was like fully standing up for her, which was lovely. There was another person who stood up for her, but then after said, I don't support it, but that doesn't mean that she can't be living or being herself or like something like that. And I thought, now that's an interesting way to go about it, especially like you don't like here's the thing, you don't have to support it
Yeah.
or accept it or whatever.
Just don't be an
Leave the
ass.
people alone. Like
Exactly.
like they're just living their life. So if you're
Doesn't
living
concern
your
you.
life and they're living their life, you guys can coexist in the same area without causing problems. But
I
this is
think that's
exactly what
also
happens in this, right? Is that they're minding their own business. They're literally
yeah.
sitting at a table eating food, and this lady feels like it's her business to come up and, you know,
She's
say
also
something
like
like,
trying to tell them what they are and what they aren't, and it's like, what do you think that was gonna do? But I will say there is retribution because this is the one scene that I'm like, you can find it on YouTube. Like I said, like just this scene. Just look up Electra reading transphobe on YouTube, and you'll
yeah.
find it because she reads this bitch to the floor, like decimates this girl. Electra has like two of these scenes actually. I forget why, but they're outside in like a neighborhood, and this like old woman comes up with her chihuahua, and one of Dominique's lines is "Go run home, Wonder Bread. This ain't the yellow brick road." And I was just like, this is iconic. So Dominique reading the people down is an iconic scene, but also the message, like Michaela was explaining, still stands. It's like, people, close your mouth. It's not that hard. Just keep the muscles closed. Thank you. Have a
If you
blessed
don't have
night.
anything nice to say, don't say anything at all. Like that's what I've always lived by. It's one of those things of if you're it's exactly the same idea of like if you see someone wearing an outfit that you don't like, you're not going to walk straight up to them and be like, I hate this outfit. Why are you wearing this?
Mm-hmm.
You're going to close your mouth because you don't have anything nice to say and you're going to walk away. And I don't understand why people can't do that for other people.
Yeah. Yeah.
Plain and simple. Super easy. But I loved that we had that almost heroine moment for
Mm-hmm.
Elektra at this point of, especially because Elektra is protecting, you know, the
Lulu
other
and
two.
Candy.
Yeah, I was gonna say Candy and Lulu. At this point, right? There's that motherly protection as well, and we get that kind of I am strong and I'm going to stand up for everybody kind
Mm-hmm.
of moment from her, and it's a beautiful moment and definitely something that you guys should go check out if you haven't seen it because it is very well written. That is the other thing about this show is this show is so well written
Mm-hmm.
because yes, it's set in the 1980s, but these were also problems that, well, I'm going to say are problems that everyday people are still facing. And it's written in such a way that even when you watch it in nowadays, you know, you still understand the stories and you still connect to the stories. And this specific moment was one of those where you could watch it and you'd be like, wow, this is something that could actually be happening in today's world.
Yeah. So moment number 4 is back to the kind of depressing and sad, but not really. This is when Ricky finds Praytel's body, and this episode is kind of like time jumpy. So Ricky does find Praytel's body, but it's explained at a family dinner. I should say, so Ricky and Blanca were fighting to get into this like experimental HIV like treatment like test thing. It, y'all know what I'm talking about if y'all have ever done like a migraine test, like that sort of thing. But Ricky was not doing amazing, and Prey was actually giving Ricky his meds over like Prey taking them himself.
Yeah.
This
Well, and I think again, this is another moment in the show where, I mean, I think it's obvious from the start, and I think you would agree with me on this. Sorry, spoiler for anybody who has not watched any of the series. You're gonna get a big spoiler here.
I mean,
but,
why would they still be listening if like?
Right, I know. I kind of feel the same way, but like I feel like I should say it anyways. I think from the start, it's very obvious that Prey's gonna die at some point. I think that it wouldn't have been a fitting ending to the story if Prey had lived, and I think that Prey giving Ricky the chance to live and the chance to have opportunities that he wasn't able to have is one of the most selfless things a person could do, especially in this kind of case, and especially because, you know, Ricky wouldn't be able to not survive, that's not what I'm trying to say, but wouldn't be able to have the experience of life in the way that he does without these drugs and without this medication. But because of some unfortunate circumstances, he's unable to get these life-changing drugs, and Prey, knowing that he probably wasn't going to live anyways, gives that up so that he can have that. Like, I don't know about you, but for me, like, my heart like broke into a million pieces.
Also, just Prey being like an elder and that whole like chosen family thing, like this kind of passing of the torch in the family almost in a way. I thought that was really powerful, and it just shows how close these chosen families are and how important it really truly is and was. You know, it's just like, oh my god, no, like, oh my god, like, just. It was.
But you would agree with me that Prey had to die at some point.
Yeah,
right?
I was like, I don't know, like after a while, when he made it past season 2, I was like, okay, I don't think he's making it to the end of season 3 because he kind of wasn't like. We had been shown his entire life, you know, the moments where he's back at his hometown and he meets his like first love, and then he's been a MC in ballroom for so long. I was just like, yeah, no, he's kind of being death coded,
but I also think it's fitting that that was how it worked. And also, I mean, I think at that point they kind of knew when the show was going to end too, and I think that they were winding. They did a very good job of closing the show. So that there were no questions left unanswered, and also I think in a fitting way of seeing, like I said before, of that kind of, well, like you were saying, like the passing of the torch, but also him giving his life for another who he cared dearly about. And I think we also see that kind of full circle because at the beginning, as we mentioned, he loses his partner, and then he comes to love Ricky in such a way that he can't even fathom the idea that he would not be there. So he gives his life for him. I think that that is just beautiful. Like, the way it was written was just beautiful. Like, hands down.
Yeah. So then the last moment, I think this is a really good, when they say best for last, this is truly the best for last.
I'm just gonna sit over here while you talk, because I don't think I can do this one. I'm gonna cry.
And this is Candy's funeral. Now, Candy was not the most front character, but she definitely did have her mark. She knew everybody. And at her funeral, when Lulu and Angel walk up to the casket, a vision of Candy appears and gives them some words of kind of making amends and, you know, really focusing on the good in life in these times, and just kind of like retribution, and like the kind of what now question is kind of answered.
Yeah. We're not going to go into the details of how Candy dies either, because
it's also like off screen.
Well, it's off screen, but also I think it's not relevant to this specific part of the thing. However, I think if you do go back and watch it and you do see what does happen, you will understand where we're coming from and saying that this is one of probably the most devastating deaths in the entire series, in my opinion. I think we saw that a main character, or a supporting character, sorry, excuse me, was going to die at some point. And I think when you see her story and you understand where she's coming from and what really does happen at this point, you will understand why it had to be her. But it's also a beautiful way of showing that death doesn't always have to be a sad, heartbreaking. I mean, obviously it will still be heartbreaking, but like it doesn't have to show
Yeah.
being a sad, depressing way. We see this beautiful vision of life with her death, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And
No, it does.
It's just it's a beautiful, beautiful moment. But obviously, like, I would advise you to definitely go back and watch her story before the death, because it'll make you feel many different things in this scene.
Also, like, speaking of family and stuff, Candy's parents are here, and this vision goes to both Candy's mom and Candy's dad, and they too have a moment of, you know, I was seeing, my vision was kind of skewed, but now I see. And again, the note of timing is brought up, but Candy was a full-grown adult and a little bit more established just in life. So it was a little bit of a different dynamic, but I think the main kind of meat of the sentiment still stands.
Well, and I think what you're saying is true in that the question of timing is brought up again because it's at their like daughter's funeral. Like, it's literally, they're having this, like, this sounds so terrible. They're having this come to Jesus moment.
Yeah. No, yeah.
Where they're finally kind of accepting who she was. But the thing is, they didn't do that when she was alive. So are they doing it for show, or are they doing it for real? Like, it really bears the question of if there's a genuine moment for them to be able to accept who she is and was. And I don't know if I fully believe the parents in this situation. I think in any of the deaths where we see a kind of moment with the parents and them finally coming to the conclusion of acceptance of their child, it's done in such a way that I'm not sure I believe they're fully genuine.
Yeah, no, I definitely see that. I do, like, I feel like it could be like, well, they're not here anymore, and that's very sad, and we're accepting them, like, just seeing them as a person, maybe not as the gender that they truly were. You know what I'm saying?
Well, and yeah, and also like the idea of like, I don't want to be seen as the bad guy. I don't
Yeah,
want to
yeah.
be seen as the person who didn't support my child, who didn't care for my child, even in their death, you know? And I think, like I said, I think it just makes you question if there is a genuine reason, or if there was an ulterior. Wow, what is that word?
Ulterior.
Alternative, whatever.
Yeah.
Motive to what they're doing. Are they trying to save face, or are they actually genuine? That's the thing that reigns through my brain.
Yeah. That was all the points I have. Like we said many times, go watch Pose. Like, it, if you're gonna watch any of the shows, it's only like 3 seasons, and the episodes are only like an hour long. There's maybe like 9-10 episodes a season. Very easy watch. The story is very good. It's not like choppy.
And like we said before, it's very true to, like we said, it may be set in the 1980s, but it's very true to what is happening in today's society, unfortunately. And a lot of the storyline and a lot of the way that these characters are portrayed, like DJ said before, is based off of real stories and based off of real people. And unfortunately, we still have the issue of these things in today's society. And I feel like if you are going to watch this show, you will find at least one thing that you can look at and go, wow, this could be something that's happening right now. And I mean, that's with, I'm gonna call it out. You know what? We are so not straight and we talk about things on here, so I'm gonna call it out. In the case of right now, with everything that's happening in Florida, everything that's happening in Texas, everything that's happening in Tennessee, and all other places that have the what is it, the say no gay or what gay,
don't say gay,
don't say gay, thank you.
And anti-trans laws, of course,
and anti-trans laws and all of those things. And not even just that, but also just like we can also go into the, you know, the ban of abortion and all of those things too,
and the ban of drag,
which obviously is a big thing as well. In today's society, unfortunately, we're still dealing with these types of things. Yes, we have gone a long way from, I was going to say from like the olden days, but that doesn't make sense. We have come
olden times.
Yes, we have come a long way, and yes, there is some movement on these problems, but it's not enough movement. And I feel like every time that we get somewhere, we take 3 steps forward and then like 7 steps backwards. Like we, as a society, and especially in the States right now, are not moving in the right direction. We are slowly slinking backwards and going back into where we used to be. And it's really unfortunate because everybody has fought. Like I think back to like all the people. I had a really interesting conversation. I'm not going to say with who, but DJ knows because I've talked to him about it. But I had a really interesting conversation about, you know, a while ago when people who were gay were not allowed to go across the border to the States. And I was talking to an individual who told me that they were actually the first person to go across the border after that ban was lifted. But the unfortunate thing is we're moving back into a society now where something like that could happen again. Like it's sad, it's scary. And even like me in Canada, like obviously I'm lucky to be in Canada because it's not as bad here.
There are still protests here.
There are still protests and terrible things that have happened. But I'm lucky to be in Canada because the States is 10 times worse. But that doesn't mean that I'm not scared. Right. And that I'm not worried that in a few years that could be us too, right? Like it's something that needs to be spoken about. It's something that needs to be out in general public for people to hear about and to read about and to watch. And this is what this show does, is brings forward some of the problems that we are having in today's society in a way that is able for everybody to understand.
Yeah.
I hope that made sense. I just rambled
no, it does.
Sorry.
Yeah. So, with that being said, I think that's going to wrap it up for this portion. So, we will see y'all in the next clip. Alrighty, well, that is going to wrap up this episode. I hope you all had an amazing time listening. I know I did. And yeah, I think that's going to wrap it up. So, we will see you all in the next one. And
wait,
have an amazing
DJ?
time. Yeah, Michaela.
You forgot to tell everybody about our socials.
Do you want to tell them?
Sure. Our Instagram is We're So Not Straight Pod. Our Twitter is Not Straight Pod. Our TikTok, yes, I know, everybody's going to say it. Michaela, you haven't posted on TikTok. I'm aware I haven't posted on TikTok. Trust me, there is a blooper video coming of how many times DJ has messed up the podcast. So don't worry, it is coming. It'll be on there. I'm working on it. But it takes a while for me to go through all the clips. So you're just going to have to be patient with me. I promise it'll be worth the wait. So please go and follow us on there. It's We Are So Not Straight Pod, just like our Instagram. I made it super easy for you to find us on there. So please go find us. Our YouTube channel, which is where you are right now. And if you don't know where you are right now, then you should go and check out the history of ballroom because it's really important. Okay. Hey, I gotta come up with something every time. So here you go. But yes, so that is where you are right now. That is our YouTube channel, We Are So Not Straight Podcast, and it's where you can find all of our episodes from season 1, season 2, and will be where you can find all the episodes from season 3 with video, where you can see our beautiful faces. Hi, hello. Yeah, go check out all of our interviews on there. There are some really interesting interviews where we talked about some really great stuff and some really serious topics as well. So if you want to hear any of those, they're all on there. So please go check them out. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, fits of rage, or suggestions, you can email us at wearesonotstraight@gmail.com. We will also be linking all different resources and stuff to do with this episode down in the description box below, so please go check those out. And always remember that you are not alone, and also remember that you need to be taking care of yourself and checking in with your friends. So please, this is your quickly daily reminder to drink water and take your meds and take care of yourself. I think that's everything. So, DJ, you may finish the outro.
Alrighty, as I was saying, I hope you all have a fantabulous rest of your day, and we will see you all in the next one. Mwah. Bye.
Bye.